Okay, this is how to set up and play Energetic, a game about the future of New York City, using Tabletop Simulator. So once you launch Tabletop Simulator, you'll see this screen, and I'll show you a couple of quick things to get the set up the way that it works best. One is, if you go to the configuration icon, which is the gear, you can turn this music down, and you want to have the game volume up. And you want to uncheck full screen so that you can have it on your desktop if you prefer it that way. That's right here. And then you go to create. And if you're the host, you'll be the one naming the server. So we'll just call it tutorial. And set a password. And you can choose any number here. You need 4 players in the game. We just leave it at 8 because you could have people watching your game that want to be in the game space, but it doesn't really matter. So Energetic Unstable is the mod that you're going to be playing, and it's going to be in your workshop. You click load. It takes a moment to load. There's the artwork for the board is a pretty big file. So I'm going to add a couple of other adjustments, and it'll make the game run better on your computer, especially if it's if you have a bandwidth problem. If you go back to the gear icon, which was in menu, so menu up here to the configuration, and you select pure, that simplifies the background. Also, when you launch it, the tools may be on, which would give you a list of tools on the left that you don't need. So you just want to have that checked off. If it's not checked off, you would see these tools on the left, and that's distracting, and also we don't use them. There's a tutorial on the screen when you launch. I'm going to turn it off because I'm going to be explaining the game. There's 3 icons in the bottom right corner, and the icon on the far right will remove the tutorial, and you can just click that one off. So to set up a game, well, first of all, the navigation on the board, the A, S, and D key on your keyboard will move the board back and forth. The S moves it down, and the W key moves it up. So I'm going to show you the Green New Deal game, which you played at 2035. If you don't select Green New Deal, the game plays to 2050. That's the standard version, because originally the carbon commitments were aimed at a 2050 goal, but people are now moving it forward to a 2035 goal. So we select that, and you're able to choose a game that plays with renewables only, or a game that includes nuclear and natural gas with carbon capture, which you have to do research in order to unlock those pieces. So if you play the renewables only game, it won't include cards for those, but we'll just leave it with including all the technology. And now I'll show you how the board works. You can also roll with the arrow key on your keyboard. Will allow you to roll the board backwards and forwards, sort of roll it down or roll it back up. In the game, you're building 16 gigawatts of zero carbon energy. And essentially, you're replacing the natural gas that New York is dependent on. So you're going to decarbonize the city by replacing the natural gas that's producing the electricity with zero carbon sources. And so your goal is to move from 0 to 16 up here. And you're trying to do it by 2035. There's a public opinion scale on the right side of the board, and that's your popularity. There's an election every 4 years, and your chances in the election are dependent on your popularity. So if your popularity is 5, you win the election. If your popularity is 5, you win the election with a, let me get straightened out. You win the election with a roll of a 4, 5, or 6. So, and if your popularity is only 4, you need a 5 or 6 to win the election. On the left side of the board is a grid stability scale. And that goes up and down based on the type of infrastructure you build. Some of the infrastructure, the wind turbines, are a variable source. So the stability goes down when you add them, and you have to balance that out with energy storage. The slots here are where you can do your research for new technology, and also where you can introduce a campaign to change a policy. There are 2 policy types in the game. One is carbon fee, and the other is percent for climate, which is a public communications campaign. Those you collect here. And the tech research includes hydrogen storage, resilience, which we included in it as a technology, and nuclear and natural gas if you choose those. And once you've stacked 4 cards, you unlock the tech, and you get it a marker that shows you can now play those cards, and they become active in the game. There's outgoing transmission lines that can import energy from other parts of the country. And when you complete one of those lines, it's worth a gigawatt. So there's 3 lines that can run out. You build transmission to connect everything, and the infrastructure you build has to be connected back to New York. And when you build a cluster, which is 4 pieces around a transmission line, you get a benefit in public opinion. The public opinion cost in that region, for instance, on Long Island, will be 1 less for anything you build at that point. And when you have 2 clusters unlocked, you can't be blocked. You can't be politically blocked. Political blocks happen periodically, and when there's a political block, this piece appears. You have to click it into place, and until you remove it, you can't build in that region. Okay, so let's get set up. I'm showing this solo, so I'm going to assign all the roles to myself. And the game works really well solo, as we've discovered. But if you've got 4 people, they would be showing up over here. And in order to enter the game, they need to select a color. So when you're entering the game as a 4-player game, people would be like choosing a color here and entering that way. Let's see, I'll just pick that. So for myself, I'm just going to set my roles, and I did that through this secret 3-dot button over here that's in this corner. And the advanced control panel appears. Most of it is placeholders, but right now you can click on the 4 roles of the game and just assign your player name to them. And then I hit setup. So now you see role cards. And if you want to magnify a card, one method of magnifying things is to press the M key, which is what I've been doing to do this. For instance, I can show you details on the board. But to see a card, you can also press the Option key. And so if we look at the activist role, there's a special ability, there's a constraint, there's a superpower. Each role has those. And the activist gets a boost on the community outreach cards. Can't play nuclear cards or natural gas with carbon capture, and also can't throw out solar cards. And the activist's superpower is you can gain 2 public opinion when you use it, as long as the public opinion is above 3. In other words, if your administration, if your whole team is so unpopular, then the activist can't isn't able to make use of their superpower, until you get it up above that minimal level, till you get it up above that threshold. The politician has some other features, and I'll show you those in a little more detail once I start playing. So if you read each of these cards, you're going to find out that each of the 4 roles has some special abilities and has superpowers and constraints. The entrepreneur and the engineer are the last 2 roles there. The play each turn moves on this panel on the far left with the icon for each player. And the game starts with the engineer. So I'm going to select the engineer role for myself and then hit the orange button that appeared next to the card, and that starts the game. The engineer begins the game by placing 6 transmission pieces. So we set you up with 6 to get started. And remember that all the infrastructure in the game, it is basically on a circuit. So it has to connect back to New York City. This is a very stylized map, but we made New York really big so you could see it. You're able to place 6 to get started. Right now there are only 3 orange that are available, but as soon as I press one, you're going to see some more. So let's say I just wanted to put everything everything on Long Island. I've now used up my first 6. The icons in the 5 boroughs are decorative, except for this one space. on which you can build solar. It can take one solar piece. The other infrastructure spaces around the map can take anything, except the wind power in the game is all offshore. So for wind only is in the spaces that are in the ocean. The one other detail is that there's a type of technology called pumped hydro storage, which is basically a dam with a reservoir. And there's only a couple spots you can build that, so those are marked. They are up in the Catskills. There's 6 of them. So now that we've set those 6 transmission lines, the game is ready to start. So you'll see the draw button is lit up on the left side of the screen. If you click that, you're now going to get your first round of cards. So each turn starts with the activist. And if I look at the activist's card, so the activist has 2 cards in this first turn, which is the year 2021. And resiliency is a card, and that is fantastic. So I think we're going to play that one. It costs 100 energy bucks, and it's a +1 on public opinion. So that's what those numbers mean at the top of the card. And it's a benefit ultimately when we unlock it, because when hurricanes come along, we're going to be a little bit protected, actually, from each three of those effects: hurricanes, heat waves, and storm surges. That can be critical in a game. I also have a wind card, another excellent card that would allow us to build 1 gigawatt of wind turbines in the ocean. And in this game, it's a true gigawatt. So it's a gigawatt that replaces 1 gigawatt of natural gas, which means it's about 2 gigawatts of turbines, about 170 12 megawatt turbines. It's a big installation. And it costs 400 energy bucks. And 100 energy bucks is $1 billion in the real world. So this is $4 billion of wind turbines. It's a -2 in public opinion, and it's a -4 in grid stability. I'm going to turn the board back. The politician has a wind card and also has a transmission card. So you'll start to get used to the information on the cards as you play. The entrepreneur has a hydrogen research card. That's also a great technology to unlock, because until you've got hydrogen research completed, the only way you can balance out the wind power for stability is with pumped hydro, which is, again, one of up in these spaces. And there isn't a pump. Oh, here's a pumped hydro card, so we can see what that's like. So until you've got the hydrogen unlocked, when you play this card, it's the pumped hydro version, which is the dam shown in that little illustration. It's very unpopular. So it's a -6 in popularity. In fact, we are not popular enough. We are not popular enough right now to play this, because our popularity is only 5. So until we boost our popularity, we're not able to make use of this card. We don't have enough political capital, basically, to do this. You can see here the benefit of completing the hydrogen storage, because that's only a -4. So it's easier to build. And the other, even more important factor is that you can build it in Long Island. You could build it in other spaces in the Hudson Valley. So you have a lot more options. It's much more flexible. And that turns out to be really important. There's only a limited number of places that you could even try building pumped hydro. Whereas hydrogen, is just infrastructure that you'd have many more options and where you could put it. And I guess we'll look at these cards. Okay, there's a yellow card. The yellow cards in the game are public outreach or other forms of, we call them campaign cards, but they're basically policy and benefits that come with communications around climate and energy. So in this case, investors have come to your side, come to your aid, and are willing to put in 200 energy bucks for what you've decided to do, and that is equivalent to $2 billion. The other card the engineer has is a research card, and that's one of the cards that will unlock advanced nuclear research. And again, if you choose the renewables only version of the game, which would be lit up green if I had chosen it, these cards won't even show up, so you won't have a nuclear card in it. It kind of simplifies it because the nuclear and the natural gas cards are out, but that's a choice you can make at the start. I think for realism, it's probably better to leave everything on the table because although in the short time frame before 2035, we're not sure how society is going to make decisions. The reality is, all of this technology is potentially on the table. And by the way, I'll just show you this, but there's a little hidden button here that will show you, if you click it, it will show you the tokens in the game. And occasionally you have to do stuff with tokens, so it's good to know where they are. But most of the game is automatic. The instructions, the rule card, is also hanging behind the game up here if you need to look for it. But we also have a PDF online, so it might be easier to do it that way. So back to the turn, I am going to play the activist. The other thing I was going to show you is, it's hard to see, but there's a little halo here. That's my superpower. To show you how that works, I will use it. I have just used it, and I just added 2 public opinion points. And your superpower is available once every election cycle. So now I've spent mine for the activist, and it will be renewed after the next election. I am going to play the resilience card. As a team, you'd be talking about your plan, and in fact, to play the game carefully, you probably want to look at all of your cards together and talk about what you're going to do that year, and that's kind of reflects real life. So to play a card, I just move it into Long Island, and when you let go of it, it's going to move up into place, into this play slot, and from there you click the play button. In the first turn, you do these settings by yourself, and we did that just so people would get familiar with what's happening in the game. Every other turn, it will be automatic. So I should increase opinion by 1, and I should subtract 100, and that's everything that happened with that card. I'm going to pass my turn, so I go back to my icon on the left and click it, and I'm now playing the politician. So our public opinion is high, and we can afford the wind. So maybe I'll play this wind card just to show you how that goes. I'm going to put it over here, let go of it. And now it shows me the available spaces because we've connected the offshore wind here. So I'm going to press that one, and I subtract 2 opinion, and the stability goes down 4. and I cost $400. Okay. Now, I'm looking at the board and I'm realizing we didn't connect any transmission up here, so there's no way to build the storage that we're going to need to bring the stability back up. So I might play the transmission card next. And before I do that, I'm going to show you how the politician's superpower works. I'm not actually going to spend it, but I'm just going to demonstrate it. If I move this up a little bit, it's easier to see. There's the superpower halo. So the politician's superpower allows you to buy and sell opinion. And we're not going to do it now because we don't have any money. And we do have some opinion we could sell, but we don't really want to do that either. There are points when this becomes really critical. It's a great way to improve your position either with money or with opinion. And it's sort of equivalent to raising or lowering taxes or offering some kind of public benefit that increases your popularity. You know, you spend money in order to get your popularity up. So you can sell opinion at 100, sell a point of opinion and get 100 energy bucks. You could buy a point of opinion for 200 energy bucks. You're only able to buy a maximum of 2. The politician is the only person who can see that. The other players will not see that screen when you activate it. So I didn't spend it. I decided not to do it. So our superpower is still there. I am going to play the transmission. It's going to drive everybody crazy because I've spent all the money. But we need some transmission going up here because we wouldn't be able to build storage because we're not connected yet. So now it's the entrepreneur, and unfortunately, there's no money left. The engineer has a investor's card, and we'll play that, and that will give us 200. The engineer also has nuclear research, and that costs 100. You know, why not? Let's live large. It's really judgment call here. You have to make decisions under uncertainty. That's kind of what this game is teaching you. So should we have invested in nuclear, or should I have waited till the next turn when the entrepreneur could do this one? I made several decisions in that round that there are not black and white answers to. So that's kind of how real life works. So what you're trying to do is maximize your benefits and keep your risk at the same time, keep your risk as low as possible. So when we end a turn, the engineer finishes the last person playing and then clicks their icon, and you come to the end. And at the end of each turn, you have a event. So if I click now down where the pink bar is, it says events, the die will roll, and if it's a 5 or 6, I have to draw 2 events. So there's a little draw button. I'm going to click that. Okay. So We have not built any natural gas, any advanced natural gas. So we don't have to worry about that one. That would be a problem if we had committed to that technology. And we have built a wind turbine. So this is a wind lull, which is the risk with wind power. Is basically the wind will stop blowing for days at a time. In this case, we either have a 4-day lull or an 8-day lull. So I have to roll the die to find out which. If we had built storage, this card would not be a problem, but we haven't built the storage yet. So as the card says, for every gigawatt built without storage, we are going to lose stability, either 1 point or 2 point. So to roll the die, I put my cursor on it and press R, and we got a 4. So, okay, so it's a 4-day lull, and so we lose 1 stability point. So that's not so bad. Now, at the end of the turn, after you've done the event, you have to discard down to 2 cards in each hand. And right now, it's fine because nobody has 3 or 4 cards. And we've just gotten our next year's budget, which is awesome. 600 energy bucks, 650 energy bucks, because we're now getting a credit for the gigawatt of renewable power that we've added. So each gigawatt of renewable power gives you 50 energy bucks per turn. This is not counted for nuclear or for natural gas because those have fuel costs. But wind and solar have no fuel cost. So to factor that in, we give you a a 50 energy buck credit each year they're on the board. And we are now, you can see that we're at 1 gigawatt. So we're on our way. And we're now in the year 2022. So I'll play this turn and you'll have a better picture of how the game works. Start over at the top, draw cards. It's another wind card, transmission, and pumped hydro. And for the politician, a solar card and a transmission card. The entrepreneur has a wild card that's one of the investment cards, a yellow card. And the 3 types of those are the community outreach, public deliberation, and investors. So you can actually see them it has a little tab at the top that allows you to click it. So the adaptation to Tabletop Simulator was done by Julian Bernard, a junior at Yale, and he's done a beautiful job. This is a campaign card called Percent for Climate. Percent for Climate is a policy that sets 1% of the infrastructure budget aside for public communications on climate. And once you've unlocked that policy by playing it in this space, you get a public opinion boost of 2 points on every turn after it's unlocked. Hydrogen storage and pumped hydro and a storage card, which we had before. And the engineer has 2 resiliency cards. So I would have the activist play another transmission card. and add the transmission up here. So we can now build storage because we're going to need it. And we're in a little bit of a jam because we're not super popular. Because we've been doing a lot of building. We haven't really explained why. And the public is really not super happy right now. The politician can help a little bit here. Building some solar, which we've made solar very popular in this game. So just building solar boosts your opinion by 1. It gives you a quarter of a gigawatt. So we've now gone from 1 gigawatt to 1.25. And the solar pieces are pretty big. We'll have an explainer on that too. They're actually 750 megawatts or more of panels in order to produce a quarter of a gigawatt. 750 megawatts of panels in order to produce a quarter of a gigawatt. 250 megawatts of power. They come with batteries and trackers, so they track the sun. That one piece is about an entire year of solar cities, solar rooftop installations. So it's a big thing. So our opinion is not great. We went up by 1 point. We have some cards here that will give us better opinion. I could decide at this point to use the politician's superpower and buy a point. But I think buying a point costs us 200. You know what? Let's do it. Hmm. I have. Oh, I might be constrained. Oh, our opinion's too low. I believe we are constrained for some reason, so I'll pass it. This card will give us public opinion. So we're going to play it as a community outreach card. It will gain to public opinion. That's basically you go out to the community, and actually when you see this, this card can function 2 different ways. It can remove one of the opposition markers, or it can give you an opinion boost. So I just gained 2. And I would like to play the percent for climate card, but that's going to cost us a point just to get it started. But maybe I will. These are the kinds of choices you have to make. Like, do you try to move the public forward, or do you play it cautiously and try to keep a high public opinion continuously throughout the game? The problem with that is you might be going slower than you could otherwise, and you really can't go slow in this game because you have to build 16 gigawatts. So, by the way, if you hit tab, you can make a pointer out of your finger. And I'm just pointing out that we only have till 2035 to build all of this power. I played one of the resiliency, and we have enough money, and resiliency is a card you're allowed to play. Actually, I don't think, no, you're not allowed, the same player isn't allowed to play the same card twice for resiliency. Okay, so I rolled a 3, so I'm going to draw 1, and it's a drought, which I don't think affects us because we haven't built pumped hydro yet. It affects pumped hydro and it affects nuclear, both of which are dependent on water. We don't need to discard anything. And I think you now see how the game works. So I'll stop this recording and we'll be happy to take questions in through email and directly if a class is watching this. Thank you very much.